What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, aka The Guru, where it is my mission in life to tease out the habits, life lessons, secrets to success, as well as to discuss the technical teaching and coaching ideas that you can apply to your career and your life immediately to help you achieve better results from your students and your life. Huge gratitude to all the high performers that have been on this show and their willingness to share their knowledge and expertise with all of you. And thank you for listening, sharing the podcast, and also supporting the Golf Guru Show. Today we get away from the normal golf genre and jump into the NBA realm, as my guest is basketball legend Nazr Mohommed. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at Nazr Mohommed. You spell that Nazr Mohhammed. A little bit about Naz. Nazr played 18 years in the league with 8 different teams. He was on 2 national championship teams in college at the University of Kentucky in 1996 and 1998, and played on the World Championship San Antonio Spurs in 2005. So this guy knows a little bit about what it takes to be a winner. Naz is now working in the front office of the Oklahoma City Thunder as a professional evaluation scout. Naz is a longtime student of mine that loves golf and is very analytical when it comes to learning and getting better, which we discussed in the podcast. He's also one of the hardest working individuals that I've ever seen and ever been around, which makes it no surprise why he played at such a high level for so long. This conversation is full of life lessons, daily habits, and information that you can apply really for anybody that wants to achieve their goals in all areas of life and business. So without delay, let's get to this awesome conversation with Nazr Mohommed. Nazr, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I know we've been talking about this for a while, trying to get together, and we're going in different directions. So I'm real excited to allow you to share your story and for me to learn some more things about you and some more interesting things. I've got so many topics to cover here in so many different directions, but I wanted to start because this is a show about sort of unpacking what high performers do in different business worlds, different sports, and I'm in the realm of golf, and you're in the basketball arena. I think it's a really interesting thing that I want to read here, if you allow me to read something that you wrote from thePlayersTribune.com.
Okay.
That I think it really encompasses why you've been so successful for so long. They heard me at age 12, and you're talking to your family here, they heard me at age 12 announce that I would one day play in the NBA. They've seen me work and the work that I've put in for 18 years. They know it's almost impossible for me to sit still. They know I have a tendency to get obsessed with whatever goal or task is at hand, and that I can't quit until I feel like I've conquered it. I guess that comes with my name, Nazr, meaning victorious. And I love this last part. You say, even when I don't win, I never lose. And that's very close to a quote that I really enjoy is, when I don't win, I learn, right? Yeah. So allow me to unpack that just for a second, because there's so many great highlighted words in here in this passage, and what I think that, again, what encompasses all high performers. You announced, or you had a proclamation of a dream that I'm going to play in the NBA when you're at a very young age. Seen the work, which really talks to your work ethic, and you said, I get obsessed. And I think that's something that's come up a lot on this show, is that high performers really get obsessed, or very obsessive about the direction they're going, and set a goal or a task, and then lastly, I can't quit. I think this has got to be, really the reason why you've had such a long career, because you played in the NBA for 18 years, played with 8 different teams, which I think is incredible. I don't know what the longevity for most NBA players is, but it has to far exceed that. So I'm real excited to kind of get into your insights and But I want to start with your childhood, because I think it's interesting of sort of how high performers grow up and the direction that they're pushed in. Your parents were from Ghana, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but you grew up in Chicago, right? So tell me about your childhood and kind of what your parents were like.
My father raised us, so he drove a cab, and he just kind of worked hard and grind and try to take care of us. And he was an extremely hard worker. Worked long hours driving the cab to take care of me and my brothers and sisters. As far as me personally, I was a big kid, and I was pretty good at most sports that I tried. I mean, most of the things that I kind of try, I can catch on pretty quickly. But playing basketball, being a big kid, most people try to tell you, hey, go play football. Football's your sport. You should be out there hitting guys. But I always knew that basketball was the sport that I was meant to play. I mean, I was tall for my age. Actually, at 13, I was like 6'5", 250 pounds.
Wow.
So I was a big kid, both tall and wide at that age. And I've had, I always had people who kind of doubted some of the things that I would be able to accomplish, just because people really wanted to see me play football.
Did you ever play?
I played in the neighborhood. I played in the
but
neighborhood.
never like officially in school or anything?
Never officially in school. It's funny. It was our security guard at my high school. I went to my high school for a special 7th and 8th grade program and stayed there after. And he was the security guard and the football coach. And as a security guard and football coach, every time he saw me in the hallways in 8th grade, he was like, hey, you got to come play. You got to come play. So I told him, I'm good. I like basketball. I don't really want to play. And there was one day he just kept on me my whole 8th grade year, like, you got to come play. Next year, your freshman year, you got to come play. So I told him, this is what I do. I come to one practice and give it a try. I said, I know I really don't want to play football, but I give it an honest try, just one practice. I went to that practice my freshman year, and we didn't really have a good football team. We had a couple of good players here and there over my 5 years there, but 4 years of high school. But we didn't have a good football team. I went to a practice, and I played quarterback. I played some defensive end in practice. He kind of was just moving me all around, and he actually liked me as a quarterback. I didn't have an amazing arm. It was just the fact that I had a decent arm. I could see over the line, and I had that one practice, and after that practice, I probably was one of the better players in practice. Probably, I'll say top 4 or 5 players in practice, and I've never played organized
Never
football.
played, yeah, that's amazing.
And and after that day, I realized there's no way I was playing football, especially for my high school team. I loved basketball so much, and then with football, I was just like, I can be good, but this isn't what I love to do.
When was the first time you remember picking up a basketball and starting to play?
First time, I probably was about, in my neighborhood, we had a neighborhood, we played everything. We just, whatever the season allowed in Chicago, we played. So when it was sunny outside, we were playing either basketball or playing some strikeout against the wall, a little baseball. So my first time I remember picking up the basketball, I probably was about 9 in the playground, 8 or 9 in the playground, just messing around. And when I started realizing I could be pretty good, I would say I was about 10, 11. That's when I realized that, I liked it and I can probably be pretty good at it. But
and that's when you told your parents, I'm going to play in the NBA.
That's what I told most of my friends. I told my pops that, and
what'd he say?
He just kind of, all right. My pops didn't say a whole lot, so like I said, he was always working. He kind of was like, it's a crazy little kid telling him you're going to play in the NBA, and he was just like, oh, okay.
Who was your first influence early on? Who taught you how to play, or was it just that natural when you picked it up?
The first person who recognized that I could probably be pretty good was a neighbor of mine. He was a couple years older than me. His name was Alan. We used to call him Fissy. That was his nickname. So he just was, one day he just took me to the court, and he was just trying to show me different drills and dribbling drills, and it was kind of like, we just did that for a couple of weeks. And it was fun. I improved, but the first person that had a real impact on me getting better was my JV coach, Andre Peavy. He saw me in the gym one Saturday morning because we had Saturday morning institute when I was still in 8th grade there. Where it was pretty much open gym and then had academic areas that was open that you can come to on Saturday and kind of do whatever. And he saw me in the gym and I was playing. He was like, okay, I found me one. And
he could see the talent.
You saw the talent, even though I was a big kid, slow moving up and down the court, but at the same time, I just had great touch, great feel for the game. And from that point on, we just kind of started working on my game and getting better, and he was with me all through high school.
So then you obviously had a pretty good high school career and was getting recruited and then ended up going to Kentucky.
Yeah. High school was, I had a pretty good career, all state and conference and all that stuff. But at the time, it was Georgetown was really recruiting me when I was coming out of high school. So me being a big man, John Thompson.
Coach Thompson,
comes to my house. He's recruiting me, comes to games. I take a visit there, and I was so close to signing with Georgetown. It was actually a story I tell about how after my visit, Allen Iverson was there, but after my visit, I came back home and my pops had the letter of intent, and he was like, here we go. You're going to Georgetown, sign it. But something just told me I wasn't quite ready to sign. It was, I think it was in November, the early signing period. I just wasn't ready to sign during the early signing period. I didn't have any other place that I liked more. I didn't take another visit yet, but I just knew that I wasn't ready to sign at that point. My father was pissed because even being, immigrant from Ghana, he knew John Thompson. When it came to
everybody
basketball.
knew that. Yeah.
I mean, you got Mutombo, Lonzo Moore, and Patrick Ewing.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew Mutombo being an African-born player. So he was like, "Oh, you're going to Georgetown." So when I told him no, he was pissed. He was like,
"So did Pitino swoop in at some point, or how did that? What was that like?"
It was crazy. We just went on through the season. Season started in I think it was in February. Kentucky started recruiting me heavily. They sent some of the assistant coaches to see me play. They started recruiting me heavily, and I took a visit. I went down there on a visit, and it was probably the worst weekend to visit Kentucky in all of Coach Pitino's years. And what happened was they played Georgia. It was an afternoon game, and they were blowing Georgia out. They were blowing them out by about 30. But as the game went on, Georgia started breaking the press, and they cut the lead to like 18 or so. But they wind up still winning by 20-something. But Coach Pitino was hot. I'm walking back to the locker room after this afternoon game, and I get there, and managers, everybody's trying to stop me from going into the locker room. So they stopped me. All I hear is the yelling and craziness going on in the locker room, and then they finally let me go in after Coach Pitino finished his talk, and all I see on the board is 12:01. Because what I heard was he was like, when is the next time we can practice? And you couldn't practice till the next day. You couldn't have a practice on game day. So they practiced that night after the game at 12:01 a.m.
Wow.
And they practiced.
So you were just like, sign me up for that.
it was crazy. Like, they practiced. They went hard. They went hard for 2 hours.
You got to watch?
Yeah, I got the chance to watch the whole
That's
practice. Awesome. They all went hard for 2 hours. They go back into their rooms by 2:30. Next morning, 9 a.m. practice. You can only go 4 hours in one day by NCAA rules, so next morning, 9 a.m. practice. Luckily, he didn't try to kill him the next morning. They just did kind of an individual instruction and watched a little film, and he let him go. But the guys that night thought it was practice, ready to go 9 a.m., so just mentally, they were like, we know you're not coming. Like, guys were like, we know you're not coming, because it's never like this. This is the worst day ever for us. But I got home and I was just like, I want to go to Kentucky.
Interesting.
People thought I was crazy, just being a big kid, because at that time I was like 6'10", 300.
I was going to say, I had that in my notes, as you showed up at 3:15.
Yeah, I was.
Your freshman year.
Actually, I didn't show up at 3:15. What happened was I was my highest weight in college was about 315.
Okay.
And I could, to fast forward, actually, let's go back. I
Yeah,
chose Kentucky.
Yeah.
The whole city thought I was crazy. Like, it was like, oh, you're just, it's going to be another Chicago kid we never hear about. He's going to the wrong school, and that's an up and down style. He needs to play more of a slower post-up style. But I just knew that I was supposed to go to Kentucky. But fast forward, after I committed to go to Kentucky, you know, at my highest weight, I was about 315 pounds in high school. So I called myself trying to get in shape before I got to Kentucky after our season. So I got down to 292. Got down to school. I thought that, you know, they'd be pretty happy that I got myself in, you know, decent shape. I'm at 292. Right. I've lost, you know, over 20 pounds before I got there. I have my meeting with Coach Pitino, and he says, hey, good job, but I need you at 250 before the season starts. Or
wow.
You won't, before we start practicing, or you won't practice or play with us until you get under 250. I'm thinking he's crazy. It's, at this point, it's like July 1st.
So you don't have much time.
I don't have much time, because first practice is October 15th.
Oh, my.
So I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get to this. And he was like, you won't practice or play till you get there. I met with our strength coach, Sean Brown, and Sean was like, hey, listen, if you listen to me, you'll get there. I thought he was crazy. But we just got to work. We got to work, just weights, watching what I was eating, extra workouts, going twice a day, and before October 15th, I was at 247.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
Yeah, I was able to accomplish it.
How did that change your game? Did you with your body? I know in golf it definitely affects a lot of stuff. I mean, it just feels different.
Oh yeah,
were you quicker? I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It made me quicker. You know, we did so much weight training that I was able to keep my strength, and I was still able to move people, and I was still bigger than everyone. But it just made me quicker. It made me jump a little bit higher. It just and just maturing too. I mean, just over that time, it was just great for me.
Well, it worked out.
Yes,
Two national championship teams.
Yeah.
And I know you played with Jamal McGlure, right? You kind of split time with him, so you weren't even like the main guy.
Oh, we had a deep team.
I know, it was an unbelievable squad.
Yeah, we had a deep team. In that '96 team, we had a bunch of guys who played pro, and I actually believe it's the greatest NCAA team of all time.
Who was on that team? Give us some names.
Walter McCarty, Tony Delp. These are guys who made it to the NBA too. Mark Pope, Jared Prickett, Derek Anderson, Ron Mercer, Wayne Turner. These are, Jeff Shepard, Allen Edwards. It was just, we had a team that was just unbelievable. And I still think it's the greatest college team of all time. But then just the next years we had a great team. Like you said, Jamal McGlure was on my team. Scott Padgett, who played about 10 years in the NBA, was on my team. Michael Bradley, who played like 7-8 years in the NBA, was on my team. So we always kept a deep team.
That's incredible. So one of the questions that I had was, just kind of relating to coaching and playing for Coach Pitino. I'm sure there was so many life lessons that he taught you. You know, in my business, I'm trying to learn by reading books from like John Wooden and Coach K and Dean Smith and, other coaching greats in different sports. Talk to me a little bit about what you learned from Coach Pitino, maybe the qualities of what you feel encompasses a great coach, and maybe some stories if you have any to share.
The biggest thing I learned from Coach Pitino was work ethic. In high school and leading up to getting to play for Coach Pitino, I thought I worked extremely hard. I thought it was tough. But when I got to Kentucky, it went up another notch to an area I didn't think I could survive in. My freshman year, every day I dreaded practice. And I'm not the only one. Every freshman that came through Kentucky dreaded it. Me and my roommate, Allen Edwards, we used to sit on the edge of our bed. This was his sophomore year. And just sit there on the edge of the bed before practice and just wonder, how are we going to make it through today? Like, it was just so intense, so tough. Physically, mentally, he was tough on us, but he believed in making practices so hard that games were like days off. So when we got to a game, we just blew everybody out. We were the best shaped team in the country. And he just, kind of just always pushed you behind past where you thought was your max. He pushed you just enough for you to know, like, hey, you got more.
That's something that we're trying to do better as golf coaches, is make our practice more difficult than playing. It's obviously difficult to simulate a game.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the exercises you remember him putting you through that just was just crazy, and then you're like, okay, I can't wait for the game because the games are easy, right?
It's just the level of intensity that he required, because like you said, it's so hard to emulate a game that our practices were more intense and more scrutinized than the game. There was no mistakes. I mean, it was to the point where if we did our shoot-around walkthrough the day before the game or the day of the game and you made a mistake in walkthrough, you may not play that night.
Wow.
No matter who you were, if you kept making mistakes in walkthrough. He just believed in perfection and intensity and working hard in practice, because he wanted the games to be easy, and they were. It was crazy. We would talk in the locker room after the game. All the guys felt like game day was a day off. Most guys felt like we're going to be on the court 40 minutes today. We're used to 2-hour intense, up and down, battling type of practices. And then you say 40 minutes split between 15 guys.
That was easy.
We're like, this is nothing. This is truly a day off.
Yeah, I remember I was fortunate to get to watch Duke practice at one of our teaching seminars, and we had the list of what they were going to do that day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was down to the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the same way with Coach?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything was detailed, and you knew exactly when water breaks are going to be and what drills you're going to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when they walk in and all the coaching staff has the practice schedule kind of folded in their back pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And you have someone on the clock kind of running the clock. As soon as that go off, it's quick water break or straight to the next drill. Everything was timed and, organized and professional. So it was, and we had to sprint to the next drill. It wasn't like
no loafing.
Oh, no loafing and lollygagging to the next station. It was just stations and drills, and it kept you mentally kind of focused and ready to go, because in games, same situations.
How much of it was drills versus, I guess, drills in golf, we would call that sort of skill acquisition or maintenance, depending on where you are with your technique, and then how much of it was like live situation playing, like scrimmaging?
All of our drills were competitions. So even though we would
goals and measurements,
it was measured. Like even we had a full court drill of how many baskets to make in a certain amount of time, or we'll have one-on-one type drills where you get put in certain situations and you guys competing or rebounding or whatever the drill was. It had some type of competitive nature, either against time or against one of your teammates. So it was always going to be a winner and a loser.
And when you got that good a team, everybody's challenged every day, right? The backups were probably as good as most teams you were playing.
I mean, that year it was funny. Dick Vitale, because we were ranked number 1 in the country, and Dick Vitale said Kentucky's number 1 in the country, and their bench is number 2 in the country. So,
I can imagine that. That's amazing. And you guys won 2 national championships. I mean, what were those years like? Any stories you could share about?
Let me see. We went to 3 straight national championships, and we won 2 of them. And it was, we kind of spoiled.
Right.
At least especially me, because I got at Kentucky to the point where we were just an unbelievable team, and to come in and win a championship as a freshman, then my sophomore year get a chance to play a lot more and to get to the championship game, and we lost to Arizona in the championship game. And then junior year to go right back to the national championship game and win it.
Like, this is normal.
Yeah, that's how it felt for us
Yeah.
at Kentucky. Most people measured themselves by having most schools measured themselves by having 20-win seasons, and every year I was at Kentucky, we won 30-plus games. So
Incredible.
We really didn't measure ourselves by that. We measured ourselves by championships. We didn't celebrate going to the Final Four. We didn't celebrate, even when we lost it, we didn't even getting a runner-up ring was not even in a consideration. We actually just kind of forget about those times and just thinking about the winning. As far as stories, just the journey as far, like in college, some teams you can just peak at the right time and do well in the tournament. We looked at it as we got 6 straight games we have to win. So whenever the tournament came around, our guys were just so focused and intense because we've been there before and we knew we had to be perfect for 6 straight games. And we had hundreds of practices leading up to that we practiced perfectly. So when we got to the tournament, teams were just weren't ready for what we were about.
That's incredible. So you didn't stay all 4 years, right?
Nope.
So you leave early for the NBA. Tell us about that decision to go to the next level and sort of who helped you with that.
It was very, very tough decision. I really didn't want to leave school. But I was in a situation where, like you said, had Jamal McGlure behind me.
Right.
Had Michael Bradley behind him. All three, and Michael Bradley was starting to emerge. I won 2 championships and went to 3 straight championship games.
But you run out of goals.
It was I wanted to stay, but at the same time, we're probably going to be splitting minutes again the next year, which, just for some reason in the sport of basketball, it's almost like once you become a senior and you've been there so long, it's almost like your stock falls.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like, how do you take it up another notch and take?
Was there a progression or a projection that like I'm sure you guys do research and before you leave you're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to be taken in the first round. I know you were the 29th pick.
I was. There's projections and all type of information to kind of let you know where you may fall. It's almost never correct, but.
Right.
That's what it is, projection. So for me, it was that I was going to fall somewhere between 10 and like 20 at the latest. But there's always things that happen draft night that just kind of screws that up. So once I got the information of where I was going to fall, I actually put my name into the draft, but I kept it so that I can take it out and go back to college.
You had a backup plan.
Yeah, so we started working out for teams, had great workouts, had a lot of great feedback, and a lot of teams was telling us that if you're there at our pick, we're taking you. So we went through the process, and then I officially entered my name and hired an agent, so I couldn't go back.
That's the deal breaker right there, right?
Yeah, once you hire an agent, so you can't go back. They just changed the rule. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but now it's a little different. But I hired an agent, so we couldn't go back. So we entered the draft. We're preparing for it. That same year was the NBA was predicted to have a lockout that summer, so everyone who got drafted was pretty much going to be in limbo once they got drafted. So that was part of the decision. It's kind of tough making that decision knowing there was going to be a lockout, but we didn't know how long the lockout would last. We were being told that it wouldn't be that long, and it wound up being about a couple of months, and we only had a 50-game season that year out of 82.
So it was a shorter season.
It was a shorter season. But to go back to draft night was crazy.
Was it stressful or was it exciting?
It was extremely stressful.
Yeah.
In the beginning stages, it's exciting, but once it gets going, it's stressful. And the reason why it's stressful for me was I worked out from every team that had a pick from 8 to 22. So as the draft went on, actually I worked out a team had a pick at 4, but they were pretty honest saying, hey, we're not picking you at 4, we really like you, and we're going to try to make some trades and moves to get you. So as the draft night is going on, names are coming off the board. First pick was Michael Olowokandi. I think second pick might have been Rafe LaFrance. I can't remember. Or Mike Bibby was second pick. But it was Paul Pierce was projected to go 2 to I think it was Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Pierce starts slipping down the draft board. And then at 7, Jason Williams from Florida got drafted 7, and he was on no one's draft board. Now, he was a possible first rounder, but no one expected him to go that high.
Yeah.
The crazy part about that is I expected him to possibly go that high. And the reason why I expected it is because I worked out for Sacramento, and while I was in Sacramento, they were passing out Jason Williams' highlights from his workout.
This is the kid from West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
I
they were passing out
played with
tapes.
Randy Moss in high school, yeah.
they were passing and discussing. There was so much of a buzz around the organization about
Wow.
Jason Williams, and I'm there working out for him. And
How does that make you feel, right?
I'm hearing, like, equipment managers talk about, like, this kid was
Jay Will.
I know, he shot the ball well, and he has so much game to him. So I had a feeling he could possibly go there. No one else knew this but Sacramento and me probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, he moved up the draft board. So now that throws off everyone's predictions of who's available. The Celtics had the 10th pick, and I was projected to go to the Celtics at 10 because Coach Pitino was there as coach, and they needed a big man.
There you go.
So at 10, they choose Paul Pierce.
Oh, wow.
Who's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, they choose Paul Pierce, so now that throws off because the whole draft predicted me going to 10 to Coach Pitino. They're like, it's college coach. They need a big, the right pick.
Now, were you going to be a center, or were you going to be a 4 guy?
Oh, center.
Yeah,
Center.
okay.
I was going to get a chance to play beside my good friend Antoine Walker, who was already there.
Yep.
So once they picked Paul Pierce, that changed things for me. So there were other teams that I worked out for who, in our meetings promised me that if I'm there, they'll pick me. They didn't pick me. So now the 20th pick come, which is the last team I worked for, I worked out for, which was, Denver. They passed. So after the 20th pick, none of the teams on the board I worked out for.
So you have no idea what's going to go
now
on.
I have no idea what's happening. And I left school early, have no idea what's happening, if I'm going to get drafted. Because getting drafted in the second round, it's cool, but I wouldn't have left school to get drafted in the second round.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth.
So, just sitting there hoping and waiting. And we talked to some teams who were actively trying to.
Who was with you on draft night?
It was my father, my high school JV coach. Actually, Antoine Walker was back there with me. My brother, a good friend from my family friend from high school, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. So we get to teams are calling us, telling us, hey, we're trying to move up and acquire a pick to draft Nas, and it gets to the last pick of the first round, and finally the Utah Jazz call my name. And I'm just happy to be in the first round now.
Right.
I get up there, shake David Stern's hand, put on the hat. I feel like I made it. And minutes later, we get a call from Philadelphia, who tell me, hey, we drafted you. Utah drafted you for us. You're going to be traded to us. We're working it out. Get ready to get on the plane. You're flying down here from Vancouver,
British
Canada,
Columbia.
British Columbia,
Yeah.
to Philly that night.
Oh my!
Across the country. It was like, we got a press conference tomorrow, and I haven't even officially heard the trade, but they're like, hey, you get on the plane, you come here, you're coming to us. So
you started with Philly.
Yeah, I started with Philly, and 18 long years later.
That's amazing. Who was your favorite team to play for? Was there? I'm sure there's so many different
that's one of those
pieces of that.
That's one of those questions that's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the type who it's about the people.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to play for some great people, and I like each spot for a different reason.
Right.
I can go through them.
Yeah.
Philly was rough. Didn't play a lot. But I had some amazing veterans who taught me what the NBA was about, who taught me how to prepare for NBA games, how to scout in the sense of scout your opponent and prepare. Right. So I had, Eric Snow, Theo Ratliff, George Lynch, Aaron McKee. I had some great vets who taught me the NBA. When I got traded to Atlanta, and I was thrown into a trade to make the numbers work. So I wasn't a major piece in this trade, and I got traded with Theo Ratliff. And when I got there, they actually called me and they told me, hey, we may release you because you were just put into this trade to make the numbers work.
Huh.
So I got there, but Theo Ratliff, who was a key component of the trade, was still injured. So they said, hey, we're going to keep you for a couple of days, and because Theo's hurt, and give you a chance, see what you can do. I got there and I played well, and They wound up keeping me and re-signing me to a 5-year contract after that. But Atlanta, I feel like that was my first opportunity to play. So Atlanta has a special place in my heart just because Lon Kruger gave me my first opportunity.
You can say that was a coach, yeah.
Yeah, Lon Kruger, even after management told me they may release me, Lon Kruger told me, like, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to play because, just the whole Florida connection and SEC. So I've seen you play. I know what you can do. I'm going to give you a chance. I got out there, and about 10 games later, he was starting me. So he was,
nice. Made the best of it.
Yeah, and I was ready. I was 2.5 years in Philly of just, garbage time and learning, and I was ready to get on the court. After Atlanta, I got a chance to, I got traded to New York. New York is it's a special feeling to put on a Knicks jersey and to be liked by the fans. To this day, I mean, people, New Yorkers who Knicks fans, they see me and they still show me so much love.
That's so cool.
And I was only there one season. Like one trading deadline to the next trading deadline, so it was 1 full year. And Lenny Wilkins was the coach when I got there, and Isaiah Thomas was the president. And Isaiah, being a Chicago guy, he just welcomed me with open arms. He was like, hey, I've been trying to get you for a while. Even when he was coaching in Indiana, he said, I've been trying to get you for a while. This is your chance. And then Lenny Wilkins was the first coach who – Lenny loved me. Lenny was like, hey, I'm trying to play you 48 minutes if your body can handle it. He was the first coach who kind of let me tap into my game and do different things. He didn't put me in a box as far as like, hey, just do this or just do that. Lenny was like, hey, I love your game and go out there and do wherever you practice, do it. So he was the first one who really just let me play my full game. And with that, I had some little rumblings of possibly making an all-star team that one year with Lenny. I didn't because but it was just I had a great season. And then I got traded to San Antonio, which at first I didn't want to go.
You're glad you went now, right?
Oh, yeah. I was pissed when I found out about that trade because just a couple of days before Isaiah told me that I wouldn't be traded.
Right.
It was like, hey, because the deadline was coming. He was just like, oh, no, nothing's working right now. I'm pretty sure you're going to be here. And then I wound up being traded, and I was having my best season as a pro for the Knicks. So I just wanted to finish out the season. I wanted to be there because it was just the opportunity was unbelievable. But it was a great trade for both sides, and Popovich wanted me, and they weren't even on my radar. My agent didn't even know this was going on. Usually agents can pick up stuff that's happening, but this one just came out of the blue. And at the time, they had the best record in the NBA and starting center Rasho Nesterovic. So I was starting in New York, and I'm thinking, oh, man.
Now you're going to be a backup again.
I'm going to, San Antonio to be a backup. So that wasn't, as a young kid, finding his game, I was just like, that wasn't the position I wanted to be. I had dinner with Pop once I got traded there, and Pop said, hey, listen, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but we traded for you to be a starter. It's like if you work and you earn it, it's yours. A couple of weeks later, I got there injured, that I was playing through an injury. But a couple of weeks later, actually at that dinner, he said, hey, here at San Antonio, we don't play injured players. It was like.
What was hurt?
I had a strained groin.
Okay. So it wasn't like a knee or something super serious, just something needed rest.
Yeah, so he said, we don't play injured players, so we're going to shut you down. That was tough because I got traded for Tim Duncan's one of his best friends. And Tim didn't like to trade. So Tim was a little pissed his best friend just got traded away, and now we're getting me, and I'm hurt. So Tim didn't even speak to me more than a couple of words for like the first 2 weeks. All he would do is walk by and talk to Pop and say, hey, we traded for a hurt guy.
Oh, man.
So, but when I got on the court, Tim's a great guy, He got over it, and, we're still friends to this day. And that trade I got on the court, got a chance to play, and we won the championship.
Yeah, you got your first NBA ring.
Yeah, in 05 versus Detroit Pistons, who won it the year before. So that was just that holds a special place in my heart. Just winning the championship, playing with Hall of Famers soon to be Hall of Famer, Manu Ginobili, one day Hall of Famer, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan.
Now with my Hornets.
Yeah.
Still playing well.
Still playing well.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan, a Hall of Fame coach, just being part of that organization was special. Met Sam Presti, who was working with San Antonio then, who is now in OKC, who I wound up playing for later because of their relationship. But to move on as far as after San Antonio, I signed with Detroit.
Right.
Detroit, I didn't like being there. It had nothing to do with the city. Just I didn't like playing there. It just wasn't a good fit for me. I came in there after Ben Wallace, who was loved and revered and everything. After he left for Chicago, they brung me in there, and it just wasn't a good mix. But I had a great time as far as teammates. Detroit, my teammates in Detroit were just unbelievable. Chauncey Billup, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, Rip, you guys are still buddies now, right?
Yeah.
He's been out here to play golf.
Antonio McDyess. I mean, what I learned in Detroit was just whenever we all did everything together. I mean, we were at each other's houses for holidays. Rasheed hosted New Year's Eve parties. And when we got on the road, as soon as we got on the road, it was like, okay, everybody meet in the lobby in 30 minutes, we're all going to dinner. It was that camaraderie and just that chemistry with the team off the court was just unbelievable. So I just learned a lot. That's why, even though I had an awful time basketball-wise, socially and teammates and all that, it was great.
I always wondered how much at that level the coach influences really that much with your technique, or I'm sure it's probably more organization. I would say you probably learn more from the players that you play with in the sidebar conversations, and this move's working, or hey, I noticed you're doing this. Is that true? Or
it's a mixture.
I'm sure there's different styles of coaching up there, obviously, but it just looks like these guys are best in the world. I mean, what are you going to teach them?
Yeah, no, it's a mixture. I mean, because the things you do in college, most guys' games aren't refined. So when they get to the NBA, it's usually an assistant coach that kind of refines your game and helps you, just learn what that role may be in the NBA. Everybody gets in the NBA and they think that they're going to be a star and they're going to score 20, 30 points a night, and the team drafted you to be a rebounder.
Right. Yeah.
So just learning that role, finding your niche is what the coaches help you with, and coaches kind of beat that into your head, like, hey, this is what we want you to do, and then you pick up work ethic and different things from teammates too. You just got to be a sponge, trying to get as much as you can.
Sure.
So you can have a long career.
So then where did you go?
After that, came here to Charlotte.
Yeah. So I thought.
Coming here to Charlotte when they were the Bobcats, it was just playing for Michael Jordan, someone who I knew before I got here. We were a team that made the playoffs after I got here. It was the first, I don't know if they made it after, but it was the first time the Bobcats ever made the playoffs. So it was a good experience. It was tough because we went through a couple of coaches while I was here. So
right.
Sam Vincent, Larry Brown. Who else was the coach while I was here? I can't remember.
It's a lot of turnover.
It was a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
So Paul Silas.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of turnover, so that definitely makes it tough. But had a good time, good friendships, and I just liked the city of Charlotte. It was a type of city that I knew I wanted to live in, even if I wasn't playing here. And that's why I live here now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you made some roots now that you must have really liked it.
So I liked it so much, I made it home. Then from Charlotte, I got traded to Oklahoma City, who I currently work for. I have a great relationship with Sam Presti, and that was, towards the end of, I guess my career is so long. I hate to say towards the end because the end lasted a long time.
Yeah, right.
But that, just playing with guys like Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, who's like a little brother and good friend of mine, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, good friend, and Nick Collison and Royal Ivy. Like, it was just where I really started to learn how to be a leader. I forgot Kendrick Perkins. It was where I started to learn how to lead. And, just we made it to the finals, while I was there. And it was just a great group of young guys who had a veteran mentality, work ethic. I mean, and look, three of those guys are stars, superstars in our game today. I mean, three of those guys are some of the top 5 players.
No doubt.
10 players.
KD for sure.
Yeah, KD for sure. Russ, James. James, all three of them got MVPs.
Yeah.
So that was just being around those guys. I hold that's something very special to me. And then being in a great organization, it reminded me a lot of Kentucky. Being back as far as the atmosphere, the city, the fan support was unbelievable. I don't think another team in the NBA gets that type of college feel of fan support everywhere we go. We were like stars that we couldn't even step out and eat sometimes. But
that's crazy.
From there, got a chance to go home to Chicago.
Yeah.
Which was special. Just being able to play in front of family, friends, everybody who saw me, before I even made it to the NBA. It was just for them to get a chance to come to games and kind of live a little bit of the NBA lifestyle with me and see, the preparation that's involved. Just be at the house. My kids were with me, so they got a chance to be with their cousins and aunts and uncles and a lot more.
That's the cool thing about playing for that long in the league. Now you get to share it with your kids, and most players don't get to do that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was. Chicago was an amazing experience. The fan support for me was just unbelievable.
I bet.
So it was great, and then I did another year back in OKC.
Well, I wouldn't be. I got to stop you there. I wouldn't be a good interviewer if I didn't ask you about Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
When you gave LeBron just a little tap, I guess, and got thrown out. I couldn't believe they threw you out of that game.
Oh.
Tell me about that. That's probably one of the most viewed YouTube videos of all time.
Yeah, it's up there, but it's one of those things where it's just the heat of the game. I took a foul on LeBron just to stop the play. He kind of tried to throw me down.
Yeah, didn't work.
And I was just, pissed. And
did he say something to you, or you just figure out?
No, he didn't say anything to me. It was just more of a reaction.
Gotcha.
A guy kind of pulls you down, and it just kind of reacted. I look back, wish I wouldn't have reacted that way because I got kicked out the game, and now I'm going to be remembered more for something like that than even basketball. But it's the heat of the game, heat of the battle. There was no hard feelings on LeBron or my side. It's kind of like it happens.
Yeah. Hey, it's a rough game, man.
Yeah, it happened. Not like anybody was punched or anything like that. It wasn't, it wasn't personal. All
right. So you can move on now. I had to get that in,
Oh, yeah. And then, then after that, pretty much I went back to OKC. Kind of finish out my career. We made it to the Western Conference Finals. Was up 3-0. No, it was 3-1. It was up 3-1 on Golden State, but couldn't finish it out. That's pretty much, that was the end of the career.
That was it? Yeah, because was that when you played, you were like you went in for like a half a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's about when we first met, and when you joined the club, and we started working a little bit more on your golf game, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So before we get to your new job, which I think is going to be really interesting, I always like to ask guys in other sports, what was your pregame ritual or preparation? Did you have sort of I'm sure you had some kind of ritual that you went to or did every time before to get prepared for a game?
I was very ritualistic in the sense of I tried to do the same things that I did almost every day. For every season. Most of a game day, what a game day looked like to me was, of course, we usually had shoot around. So breakfast, hit shoot around, usually stayed after shoot around. Actually, I usually got there early, either lift weights or worked out on the court before.
Really? Before you'd lift weights?
Yeah, before the team was get on the court.
Yeah.
After I'd either lift weights or do something on the court before the team got there. after shoot around, I usually, whatever I didn't do before, I did after shoot around. So if I worked out on the court before shoot around, then I'll lift weights after. If I lift weights before shoot around, then I get another separate workout on the court afterwards. So usually after that, we'll go home, grab a little lunch, start. I had this little habit of where I started a movie, but regardless of how much time, and most days I finished it, but even if I knew I couldn't finish it, I had a habit, I had to start a movie. So I'll start a movie and then take my nap. Usually try to take about 45 minutes to an hour and 15-minute nap. Nothing too long. I hated taking anything over an hour and 15 minutes because I got sluggish after that. I guess they say because you get into that REM sleep and waking up in the middle of REM sleep can make you sluggish. But I usually took a short nap, pre-game meal, off to the arena, get to the arena pretty early.
What about the meal? Was you have to eat the same thing ever, or just mix it up a little bit?
I mixed it up.
Sure, it wasn't too heavy.
Yeah, I didn't like eating before I played, but I knew I needed something, so I
fuel.
Yeah, I just would grab something. I didn't really have like some guys had like these, like eat the exact same thing all the time. I wasn't like that. I just wanted to put something in my system so I have some energy. And then I get to the. I probably work too hard on game days because then I get to the gym, and I would have another little mini workout. Most guys kind of warm up, but I just didn't know how to go half speed, and so I would probably work out on the court for another 30 to 40 minutes, kind of warming up and working out on moves that I'm going to use in the game and take shots I'm going to take in the game. And I usually like to get my heart rate up and trying to get myself a little tired because I always felt like when I hit my second win, that's when I was my best.
Okay.
So I always tried to get the first one out the way and really kind of work. Then, go back to the locker room, come out, it's game time.
Yeah.
Depending on how much I played, I will actually, if I didn't play much after the game, I go in and do some extra cardio, either bike.
It's intense.
Or sometimes I would even lift again. I usually did something after the game, depending on how much I played. If I played a lot, then I got out of there, just a little stretching and got out of there. But if I didn't play a lot, and a lot to me would be if I didn't play over about 20 minutes, I did more work.
Is that more than most guys did, would you say, or is that normal?
My intensity level probably is more than most guys. Everybody's different. Not like some guys come early before shoot around. Some do get a couple of shots after shoot around, but they don't really try to get a workout in. I was always trying to get workouts in. I just wasn't very good at going through the motions and just from Coach Pitino, I was always taught that you go through things at game speed. Like, no matter what are you doing, it's game speed. Even if you don't do a lot of reps, when you do it, it's game speed. And so I, was always a little bit more intense than probably I needed to be.
I could see that. Yeah, I know how hard you work on your golf game, and like I said, we'll get to that. But that's a great segue, and thanks for sharing that. That's so cool, just to know what high performers do in other sports, because I think you can definitely apply that to golf for the players out there, and even the coaches that are trying to get their players prepared to play. I'm going to set this next question up with another passage from your article that you wrote. And this is after you retired. It says, somebody asked me a while back, what's the worst part about being retired? And you said, I didn't have an answer at the time. Now I do. The worst part about being retired is the sympathetic look that you get from some people, almost like they feel sorry for you. Some people treat you as if you're about to die. The look is subtle, but what it communicates is crystal clear. Now that you have accomplished your greatest dream, what is left for you to do? And then I like the second part. It says, part of me understands why people would think that. Making it to the NBA was definitely one of my biggest dreams, but it wasn't the only one, which kind of leads us into your second career here. It would have kind of been sad if it had been. I recently heard Kobe Bryant articulate something that I've thought of for a long time. Kobe said, if basketball is the best thing I've done in my life, then I have failed. I never feared retirement while I was playing because I always had a sense that there would be greater things waiting for me. I just needed to figure out what those things were. And I like the second part, the last part here I kind of put in there because this will this will segue into my next question, but it says many times the day after watching a game, I would go to the gym and start practicing the different things I'd noticed, trying to develop training methods that I believed would have helped me as a player. It was like I was 13 years old again, mimicking the things I'd seen on TV. And first, comment a little bit on the Kobe statement. Do you feel like basketball, or do you feel like that about basketball or your career? Was it the greatest thing you ever did?
Oh, no, I don't. I mean, the greatest thing you can do is actually affect someone else's life in a positive way. And that's, whether it's raising your kids, whether it's, being a good husband, just being a good brother. Like, those things that you can do to affect and help other people are some of the greatest things you can do. Just playing basketball, it is a job. I mean, it's great that, when you have a dream and so many other people have that same dream, but that you put in the work and then you become one of 450 to play in the NBA, and there's millions of people out there with that same dream and want every season trying to get your job, and being able to stay one of 450 for 18 years is an accomplishment and a physical accomplishment that I definitely cherish. But the basketball portion of actually making it to the NBA, I mean, mine was extended.
Right.
I mean, most guys, it's only takes up a portion of your life, and you have so much more life to live. I mean, a lot of guys are done in their early 30s with a long life ahead of them. So I'm hoping it's not my greatest accomplishment. Hope my kids are and what they achieve, and I hope they go out there and affect other people's lives and make them better. So that's, what I hope for my greatest accomplishment to be. As far as from a personal accomplishment is, I would definitely like to, being a player for so long and winning the championship and knowing what was winning about and playing for some Hall of Fame coaches and learning so much is to, one day run my own franchise and run, be a general manager and build my own team and, see if all the things that I've learned from so many different people, if I can apply them and reach the ultimate goal of winning the championship in the NBA. See if I've learned enough and I can go out there and do it as an executive.
Yeah, and that's perfect segue, because you've recently embarked on your second career as a professional evaluation scout. It says / identification and intelligence for OKC, which is cool. And, this is going to allow you to kind of see some of the things that I see from switching from a player to a coach or an evaluator of talent. And you get to look at the game from a different lens, where you're looking at players' techniques, and you're breaking down defenses, and you're looking at how to figure out players' tendencies. I'm sure. Talk a little bit about how has that been a difficult switch for you, and what is the mindset, and then what are some of the lessons you've learned so far?
It's an easy switch for me. I'm always been a pretty technical person. So just watching guys, even as a player, I used to watch guys and see what tendencies they had. Because not being the fastest or the highest jumper, I had to be smart and I had to figure out ways to win that night. It wasn't about who had the better career. It wasn't about who's the better player. It's about me being better than that player that night. So I've always been the type to study players, but it was more so in players in my position and players I was going to compete against. So applying some of the things I did as a player to have the longevity and to, play well against, certain guys, I'm applying it now, just the tendencies that I see in players, the work ethic before games, just different ways to scout and evaluate and, to see, even off the court, see if guys' personalities, how they interact with their teammates, see if, I can use those things to one day maybe a player that we, have the opportunity to sign.
So when you're going to scout another team, I know you've looked at the home team here, and so do you go back and talk to the coach, or do you get to deal with the individual players and say, hey, this is the guy you're going to be up against, you're probably going to be guarding this guy, this is his tendency? No,
it's different from there's scouts, the coaches do a lot of that as far as the tendencies and applying them. What I do mostly is trying to evaluate talent that just throughout the NBA.
Okay.
You want to know the whole NBA so that if there's ever a situation where a guy's traded to you, or you may sign him as a free agent, or whatever it may be, that you may acquire a guy, that you know everything about them, that you know how they fit into the team that you have. So it's more of evaluating the whole NBA, and because you never know who may be on your team.
Right. Do you feel like the game's changed since you got in the league, and how would you say it's changed, or have the players changed as far as their? I know in golf, we've seen a huge change in the fitness level. The golfers on the tour now look more athletic. I mean, is there a switch, or has it always sort of been a progression?
The game has definitely changed. I mean, the rules of the game have changed the game. You have guys now, the game is more of a outside end game. I mean, there's a lot of concentration on the three-point shooting. When I played, the game was just much more physical defensively, and you had to have a certain level of toughness because there was so many more, I like to call, men in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of, it's a lot of young men in the game now, but we had guys like Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason, and you got the Shaqs. You had just physically imposing players who played a physical game, so it was just definitely tougher on your body. Now, I mean, it's a lot of concentration on skill. I got to give one credit to the player today is versus players when I first got in the NBA. I like to consider myself, I was fortunate enough to almost bridge the gap between the way the game was played and the game that's here today. I've played in kind of both eras.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing about players today is their fitness level. I mean, when I first got in the NBA, veterans told me, hey, I don't pick up a basketball till September. So off season, and guys took time off, and they used training camp to get in shape. They use the first month of the season to get themselves in basketball shape. Now, these guys are in shape all year round.
All year,
guys coming to it's almost to a point where guys may be overworking. I mean, guys are training all summer. Guys are in shape, so that's why the preseason has been shorter. And they're doing certain things to give guys a little bit more time. There's less back-to-backs because guys are in a level of shape that exceeded what you had to do when I first got in the NBA.
You're a trailblazer, man. I mean, they saw what you're doing. I mean, I follow your Instagram, man. You're working out harder now than you probably did when you were playing. It's amazing. You look like you could suit up right now.
I mean, I feel good, but I don't want to be hit anymore. I'm not looking forward to bumping into 300-pound guys anymore. But I mean, Kobe was also that guy. I mean, it's a lot of guys who just, Kobe's work ethic is. They have stories out there about how he got to the gym early and he was there all day and he'll work on one move for 2-3 hours. He was
wow.
So his work ethic, and guys followed him, and I like to think that players that I played with on the same team, that they saw some of my work ethic and they may have picked up a thing or two too. Also,
you listed on one of your blogs that you wrote that Shaquille was the hardest guy for you to guard.
Oh yeah.
What made him tough besides him just being so big and physical?
He was big, physical, and he liked it. Like he liked imposing his physical stature onto whoever he played. So he was tough. I mean, he had more skills than people give him credit for. They always talk about he was just a dunker, but he was more than a dunker. I mean, he just, like, people come to me like, oh, you're big. They haven't seen big yet until you see Shaq.
He's massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about golf.
Okay.
What do you love about golf? Because I know we've been working together for a couple of years on and off, and I watch. I mean, your work ethic on the golf course and on the range is unbelievable. So how have you found? Well, actually, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. But just tell me what you love about golf.
Golf. I mean, a guy like myself with an addictive personality and wanting to be good at everything is probably the worst thing I could have ever found, because it's such a tough game. It's so tough. I mean, trying to repeat the same motions over and over, and get the same outcome is in a game of millimeters is just tough. But I love it. I mean, I love the challenge that it gives me, and the fact that I can go out and play extremely well one day and come back and feel that I'm doing the exact same thing and play horrible.
Yeah, so same guy, your body changes every day. That's the difficult thing with golf, is you feel like you're the same guy, but then something feels a little different, swing gets a little bit different, mindset. I mean, there's so many factors, obviously.
Yeah, and I love it also from the whole mental standpoint of when I play golf, it gives me a chance to clear my mind, because golf is not a sport that you can play or practice while you're thinking of other things.
Right.
I mean, so you have to be focused. You have to be focused on everything you're doing. So it's for me, it's a stress reliever. It's a way to, no matter what else is going on in your life, to kind of clear your head for 4 hours if you got a round, or for me, hour or two on the range, just hitting balls, trying to get better.
Yeah, and I hear that from a lot of other athletes from other sports. Is Brenton Burson was on the podcast, and I said, well, what do you do to kind of get stress relief? And he goes, I go get balls. And I'm like, really? Yeah. For most of us golf professionals, that it's more stress.
Oh, not at all.
But I think you understand the learning process, and we've discussed this before, and that's probably what's so maddening about golf is, I mean, it's probably 10 times harder. Sometimes it feels like 100 times harder than probably basketball because you're so good at it.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you apply, or how would you say you process information? Because we've talked about, after we do lessons, you go work on it, and then we come back and we sort of dive into that process. How do you feel like you can apply that to your practice and your game?
First thing is, as far as the difference between golf and basketball. The difference between golf and basketball is, in basketball, your shot can be off, but you can play harder. You can try harder. In golf, I don't think there is a way to try harder.
It's a great point.
So that's the frustrating part for so many different players, and definitely for me is there is no try harder. I mean, and then being a person that picked it up later in life, it's habits that you have from hitting a baseball, habits that you have from doing other sports, and habits that us athletes trying to pick up a club before we're taught how to use the club keep throughout our whole golf lives. So, but what was the second part of your
Just how do you take the process of learning, like what we work on in the lessons, and apply it to your practice, and then ultimately to get to the golf course?
First thing is, like you said, I mean, as far as what you work on, you have to separate what you're working on and how you play. It took me, I still go through that now.
Right.
As far as,
because you're such a cerebral guy that we've sort of figured out on this conversation. I already knew that because I know how the conversations we've had. To be able to separate those two are really what make golfers great. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it's for me, because when you get out on the golf course, you want to play great. So me, whenever I'm trying to learn something new, I try to break it down and really just work on that before I get back on the course. Because trying to have that separation of not trying to apply what you're learning and having mastered on a golf course can be frustrating. There was times when I first started playing, I would learn something new and try to take it straight to the course and have one of my worst rounds. Now I understand the separation of certain things need to stay for practice, because there may be certain movements you may be working on your, let's say you're working on your takeaway.
Right.
And you're working on that. Working on your takeaway, gonna throw your downswing off a little.
Right, it's gonna change something else, right?
Something else. So trying to put it all together and understanding how to work small pieces of what you practice into your game versus working everything at once is key. And just you got to spend the time out there. It's one of those things that I know that in order to get better, in order to play better, you gotta practice. You gotta spend the time out there. And it's so cliche about you gotta practice, but it's true.
Yeah.
The only way you really gotta go out there and get on the range and put in the time. And I approached it the same way I did with basketball. I knew that I had to put in extra time, and I never looked at it as a chore or as work. I just kind of do what's necessary to the ultimate goal of playing well.
Shooting a score, right?
Yeah, shooting a score for golf. So When you have that score, it's a great feeling, and when you don't, you feel like, for me, I feel like I got to get back to the range.
Yeah, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes to a fault, I think.
Yeah. I'm like I said, that addictive personality, and it's hard for me to quit something or leave the range feeling like I failed. So I have had some incredibly long range sessions of practice, but usually the good part about that, when I leave, I usually feel like I've learned something, because like you said, being cerebral, I'm usually trying different things and seeing how it affects ball flight, and if I take it away this way, if I early wrist cock, late wrist cock, keeping it, being so tall, trying to see if I try to make my arc wider versus steep, and just seeing me, I'm out there trying things and trying to patch it all together and see just the different things and how it affects the ball, which if I would have learned how to play at an earlier age, I probably would have went through all this already.
Right, yeah. But, it's okay, but self-discovery is a big part of it. I mean, I think, and that's what I love about the way you process things is I'll give you a couple of things and try not to give you too much, and then you go and figure it out, and then you come back and have questions, and that's sort of the way we learn, and that's a great way to progress in the game. And that's so helping some instructors out there, from you being the student, a lot of times, and I've been guilty of it in my early days, is we give students too much in a short amount of time. I mean, how do you feel like what's enough information and what's too much?
Actually, right now, what I'm on the most is fundamentals. Like, I really feel that the swing can be taught, but so many, especially players like myself who pick it up later in life, I feel like all of us lack consistent fundamentals. My grip changes sometimes. Alignment. Like things that have to be constant. Learning how to set up the same way constantly.
It's not easy when you're 6'11".
No, it's not. And it's funny, like my swing, especially being athletic, I can almost do whatever I want with a club, but sometimes I'm trying to do it, but I'm aiming at the wrong target. And I'm wondering why the ball didn't go there. I did this move. So just as far as instructors, teaching consistent fundamentals and routine, more so than even just the swing. I think the swing, once a person has those consistent fundamentals, and they can learn how to swing the club, because and actually telling your students not to watch as much video as I watch.
Yeah, I try to do that.
It's
YouTube videos can ruin somebody, that if the videos or the tip is not geared towards what they're working on or what they need.
Yes.
Then we usually have to have a come to Jesus.
It took me 10 years to realize that now I'm at a point where I can watch video and instantly know that, that doesn't apply to me.
There you go.
Like, okay.
Having that filter is very, very important, I think.
Yeah, because what we don't realize is so many different swings and so many different ways to do it and things like that, that every tip may be counterintuitive to what you're doing.
Correct.
Because you might not be learning that type of swing and your body type, and
Yeah, what your body can do, and
so usually I'm pretty good now at deciphering that, but I wasn't when I first started playing.
Yeah.
So
I remember when I first met you, you always had some different idea that you'd bring to the lesson.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not exactly what we need to be trying to do for you.
Yeah, it's it can hurt you. I don't read as much Golf Digest and take those lessons to the court. I mean to the course, but staying away from that kind of helps me.
That is very, very well said. All right, so you've been very generous with your time. I got a couple more rapid fire questions here that may be a little unrelated to golf. So what is the book or books you've gifted the most? You have any favorite books that have maybe influenced your life?
Actually, one that I gifted to my high school. It matters how I gift these books, matters what the person is trying to accomplish.
Sure.
But as far as the book that I suggest to everyone, and I gifted to my high school, is The Art of Mental Training. That can be applied to anything in life. I mean, it's mostly about sports, but
you know the author to that? I can look it up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have it, and sometimes I check it out and I reread it. And I reread it, and it is by D.C. Gonzalez and with Alice McVeigh. And it is a great book. I have it on audio book. Actually, my wife just bought a bunch to give to, I think, my daughter's friends and teammates. It's just, it gets you ready for the game even before you get there. So
I like that. Any others that come to mind? Anything you've been reading lately, or just anything?
I do a lot of audiobooks when I'm working out,
Yeah.
when I'm doing cardio. And I did Good to Great.
It's a good one, yep. Read that one.
That's a good one. I did I read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Yep. Maxwell.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And 48 Laws of, that's another one.
Another Maxwell.
Yeah, so
Yeah, he's got hundreds.
Yeah, I'm more of a, I
That's
like
great.
the whole, I'm more self-help, 48 Laws of Power. I'm more about self-help and mental training and things like that. So, and things that can, help me in business and,
Right. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or maybe stressed out, besides hitting golf balls, what are some of your go-tos? Do you have any tactics or maybe daily habits that?
I think I'm not really. I am I don't know. I'm different than most people. I don't get overwhelmed a lot because I'm a big picture guy. So, I guess I do have tactics where I don't get overwhelmed a lot.
Why is that? You think there's got to be something behind that?
I'm a thinker. Some people say it's because my sign being a Virgo, and a lot of us are just overthinkers. But one thing I always go to, and I even talk to my kids when they get overwhelmed, is big picture. And are you healthy?
Yeah, gratitude.
Gratitude. Just the things that you have in your life, and is this something you can control? That's something that I just got through talking to my daughter.
It's a great question.
My daughter, I was like, always ask yourself before you get stressed out about something, can you truly control this? And if you can't control it, you have to let it go. Control what you can control. And I always ask myself that, when I was frustrated as a player, like, okay, what part of this can I control? And do the things you can control, and that actually would take your mind off the stresses of all the other things that's in your head that you can't.
That's super advice. How is a failure, or let's say a roadblock in your career or your life, set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite story about that?
A failure or a roadblock. I probably have a million of them that I'm gonna think of once I leave. But let me think of. Just throughout my career, it was, highs and lows. And one roadblock, or I don't even know if you call it roadblock or not, was when I was here with playing for the Bobcats with Larry Brown, and I had one season when he took over the team, and he just didn't play me the whole season. It was very frustrating, just not getting a chance to play. But I just kind of dived deep into my conditioning and dove deep into staying focused and being a good teammate and being a good leader. And it was funny, at the end of that year, you always have your out meeting at the end of the year with the coaches, and he sat me down and he was like, hey, I appreciate you staying focused and things like that. And you're a great teammate, and if you're back next year, I'm gonna play you. And it was the next season. It was possibility of being traded, but wasn't traded. And next season I was back, and there was a big golf outing that they have before the season, and he got up on stage and he said, "Hey, we had a kid last year that no matter what he did, I wasn't gonna play him." And he just worked and did, he did whatever we asked him, and he stayed ready. And this year I'm going to play him. And that kid is Nazr Mohommed. And the season started, and he played me, and I started half the season, and I got a chance. So I like to tell kids, sometimes it doesn't go the way you planned it. Things aren't working out the way you want them to work out, but control what you can control. What I could control was my work ethic, being prepared, being a good teammate, not walking around,
Complaining. No complaining. That's such great advice.
And being a jerk, because sometimes, just if someone has a reason for doing what they're doing, you don't want to add to that reason that this person can't handle adversity, or you don't want to add the reason to be like, this person's a jerk, when really you're only being a jerk in reaction to how you feel that you're, being treated. So I just kept the same mentality, kept the same work ethic, and next year I got what I wanted. So it doesn't always happen when you want it, but if you just keep moving forward, just stay on the path, that something good would eventually happen.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So if you had to give advice to, we can frame this for any sport, mm-hmm. to any young athlete that has aspirations to play Division I athletics and then go to the next level and be a professional, mm-hmm. what are some of the things that because I know you're a big mentor to young kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of advice would you give them?
It's so much, but first, the first piece that I would like to give them is, so many kids think about, I want to make it to the NBA. And I want to be, but they don't realize the NBA is saying that it used to be one of the best in the country, but now that's saying you're one of the best in the world. Stop taking the approach of trying to be the best in the world before you're the best in your neighborhood. So like I was just talking to my son the other day, I was like, he's in 7th grade, and I told him, hey, he says he wants to go to Kentucky and hopefully one day play basketball in the NBA. And I told him, listen, stop thinking that way. I was like, how about you first try to be the best player on your 7th grade team?
Yeah.
I was like, after that, try to be the best player in your conference. I said, after that, next year, try to be the best player in your league, and try to make varsity as a freshman or a sophomore. Just small goals, because small goals mean you're moving forward. So many people concentrate on the big goal, and when they fall short of the big goal, they're so disappointed. If you concentrate on the small goals, you'll constantly be moving forward. And if you don't reach the big goal, you will be much further ahead than where you started. So just little goals first, so small steps.
That's great advice. If you could have a gigantic billboard and put any message on it that would get out to billions of people, the message would be what and why?
That's a tough one on the spot. I'm going to go with a cliche.
No, it's okay.
But it's the way I live my life. You can ask my wife. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And it's cliche, but that's the way I live my life. I always initiate the way I treat people, the way I want to be treated. I had a long career, not just because I was good, but because I was nice to people.
Right.
Like, I was nice to our equipment managers and people who, some guys ignored. I was just myself, and I'm always treating people the way I wanted to be treated, and because of that, good things have happened to me. So
that's so well put. Such a great way to close. Yep. And I really value our friendship. I appreciate you doing this and coming on and sharing some really great nuggets, which I knew you would. How can the audience reach out to you and say thank you? I know you've got an Instagram page. Are you on Twitter? Give them your platforms.
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, have a Facebook fan page. You can reach me on there. It's all of them are under my name, Nazr Mohommed, NazrMohammed. So it's at Nazr Mohommed on pretty much all my stuff. Luckily, there aren't any other Nazr. It's Nazr Mohommed, but everybody calls me Nazr.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate getting a chance to sit down with you.
Guru back here again with a couple of things before you fall off the treadmill or run off the road. First off, big thank you to my friend Nazr for taking the time to come on the show and share his insight on high performance and his storied career in the NBA. Just awesome stuff. There was so much great information to apply to every facet of your life. Be sure to reach out to Naz on Instagram or Twitter and say hello. You can reach him on Instagram at Nazr Mohommed. That's spelled Nazr Mohommed. I would love to hear from you as well. So tweet me your biggest takeaway from Naz, as you can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at GolfGuruTV. Also check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and tons of teaching and golf information about my teaching and coaching. Also, send me in a question or a comment. If you want to send an email to the show, we can put you on #Guru Friday. Email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com, where I'll make a fake name for you, or you can make one up yourself. But all the while, let's get some questions in and let's get some dialogue going. I'm very excited for our upcoming guests. I've got some really, really great coaches and some surprise guests coming down the pipe. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show was produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. And as I always leave you with the infamous quote from my mentor Jim Rohn: study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.